Are flyover states like Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma the best places to get houses since they're in the locations that are cheapest? There's a reason they're the cheapest. If God doesn't kill you coasty sillyheads with the wildfires or tornadoes or extreme seasons, someone here will torch your house just because you couldn't resist putting a giant sillyhead rainbow flag on your house. Now say I hate the Antichrist and I hate Satan. I know you won't, probably can't. We're not full, but stay the heck out. Chuds really live somewhere like this and don't understand why people say they have no culture. Land is cheap because life there isn't worth living, simple as. There's almost no point in responding to ignoramus basement dweller threads about real estate. All of those 3 states are different and all of the metro areas in those states are different. They offer different employment opportunities and home prices vary just as wildly as anywhere else. Just as I will never be a woman, you'll never own the roof under which you never have sex. We need to double the number of existing states. Absolutely not. Besides Oklahoma reservations. All just bland no culture flatness and chain restaurants. Are you really going to move 1,500 miles away from everyone and everything you've ever known just to buy a $73,000 plywood box on 1 acre of land in the middle of some frozen flatlands dump? You would rather do all of that than compete to make more money so as to afford a house in your current region? They're the cheapest because unless you can work from home, you'll have to commute for at least 1 hour to the nearest city to work, and there's probably only like 1 restaurant and 1 grocery store within 30 minutes of your house. And enjoy tornadoes. Chuds have all the goods and services you need in rural areas and don't have to live in cramped crime-ridden smogvilles just to get your favorite fast food. I don't know, Anon sounds pretty base to me. Because there's no hustling bustling big city. Why would you want to live in a town of 30,000 surrounded by national parks? Are you crazy? No, I'm 31 and still can't afford a house. But if you're from Colorado, go ahead and sell your overpriced house for a less overpriced house in Nebraska and prevent native Nebraskans from ever owning anything. Does anyone actually live in a rural area? Imagine everyone posting as some STEM dork/techie that has no friends or acquaintances and thinks that they're going to have a Walden epiphany when they move to some opiate-addled town in Arkansas. I grew up in the rural outskirts of a town of 2,000 people in northeastern Pennsylvania. Privacy, fresh air, and lack of subhuman is great, but rural living has many downsides. I'm buying a home within the next 1 to 2 years. I've given some thought to going rural again, but I really doubt it. Suburbs/exurbs are much more realistic. The plains are too dry, no lakes, no forests, no real economy outside of trucking, and home insurance is too high due to the tornado threat. Have you tried looking at half the country where you can buy a house on McDonald's salary, or are you looking at the same 10% that everyone else is? I grew up in a light blue area. The jobs pay poop, which is why real estate is cheap. Real estate is generally priced such that the average house in 3 to 4 years of the average household income for the area. Exceptions are extremely undesirable places, crime driving prices down, or places with literally no jobs, or extremely desirable places, big cities especially on the coasts. Living in flyover country is so depressing that many rural sillyheads turn to deadly drugs as their escape. Many such cases, sad. I worked at a factory that was sold to a large global manufacturer with dozens of factories in its portfolio. Several months into the acquisition, the new leaders told us that our factory had the worst drug abuse problem, as per failed random drug tests, FMLA leave for drug addiction, etc., of any of their factories across the USA and the world. Heck. It's true, no culture, no jobs, no opportunity, just cornfields, booze and meth. No wonder so many flyovers either turn to the military or rope themselves. But hey, I guess someone has to tend the bean fields. 50 years ago it was a viable existence if you were a family man looking for peace and quiet, but yeah, these days it's a death sentence, via drug and alcohol abuse, for young men. Paul loves to rag on the meme that is dating in big cities, but dating is even worse in small towns. All of the smart and pretty women get the heck out immediately by attending college in the big cities. The remaining women are BPD country girls and fat single mother trailer trash. You're going to have to tell us more about your situation and where you want it to locate, rural/urban, otherwise it's a poop flinging contest between tards and soy boys. I live in Kansas City, Missouri, but actually lived in Wichita for a time. KC is expensive now, but Wichita and those other cities on the Great Plains are super cheap. I had a luxury downtown apartment in Wichita with garage parking, washer dryer, balcony, etc., and I paid $750 a month. This was for one of the nicest apartments right on the main strip downtown. Buying a house is also really cheap there. The problem is that if you aren't having kids and raising a family, it's just really boring. The whole culture is like 10 to 20 years behind the rest of the country. This is good for restaurant prices and the like, but a lot of times it's just cringe. You'll be on a back patio at a bar smoking a cig and you'll see like 25 to 30-year-old people dressed like emo/alt teenagers from the mid-2000s, and they'll spark up a blunt or joint and then start ranting about how unfair marijuana laws are and how it needs to be legalized and how weed is a cure for everything. They think they're so rebellious, arguably revolutionary actors by smoking pot. Basically anyone there who isn't conservative has the mentality of a 2004 or 2005 liberal. If you're single, dating is also really hard. Most young people move out of these places and go to the state university, and then they move to a bigger city to work after college. Lots of Wichita people end up moving to KC or Denver or Chicago. I'm sure the same is true for people in Omaha, Sioux Falls, and OKC as well. OKC actually isn't bad compared to Wichita. It's pretty nice, but it's still just boring. There's basically nothing to do in these places besides go to bars and restaurants or the movies for entertainment. If you enjoy live music, you better be prepared to drive 200 to 300 miles to see your favorite brand. If you like pro sports, same thing. The Great Plains states are not a bad place to live, but they also just aren't that great. Best thing about that area is the affordability. Most people live in poverty in the small towns. The median household income of my hometown in Indiana is $35,000 a year. If you have a comfy work from home job and make six figures, then yeah, it's pretty decent, but most people make $10 an hour in these places at best. There's still swarms of Indian marauders. They just also own casinos to prey upon the weak and gullible. It's not like dating in KC is any better. At least people are thin in Denver. Kansas is where Breaking Bad actually happens in real life, except the cops are the ones cooking the meth. I lived in the Midwest for some time. Topeka, Kansas. Worst part for me was the weather. It's so extreme. You have like 1 month of decent weather and then snow, then right after that like 2 days of spring and 3 months of hellish heat. I guess you can get used to it, but I think it's one of the reasons that there's not much to do except for eating and watching TV. SC has great beaches, friendly people, cheap homes, and lots of farmland. Also one of the OG 13 colonies, so some good history, and also the first to succeed from the Union. Lots of black people, but Southern blacks are usually pretty cool and friendly too.